Good day, everyone. This is Rita Choi, founder of Asia HRM. Asia HRM is a human resources community for Asia, focusing on leadership and coaching. We do have a coaching platform called Coaching Engage Plus, connecting qualified coaches with their potential clients. We help organizations build high-performing teams. As a continuation of a series of webinars conducted by HR leaders in Hong Kong on how to tackle challenges identified in our recent HR survey. We have done it for 3 months, and now we have decided to move on to Singapore. Today is our first session of the Singapore series. I'm so glad that we have invited our speaker to speak on one of the topics about changes. Changes are so sort of a taboo to a lot of people, right? Because changes bring unknown and uncertainties. Nobody wants it. But our speaker is going to talk about his change journey. He has finished several M&A projects in his current company. Who is Mr. Luigi, who is the VP Human Resources Asia Pacific for Prysmian Singapore. Let's welcome Mr. Luigi. And Mr. Luigi is also a member of the Asia HRM community. Let's welcome Mr. Luigi.
Thank you. Thank you, Rita. Thank you to everyone. It's a pleasure for me to join this today. I think we will have 30 minutes right together. I will try to share as much as possible on my last 20 years experience. And let's go. If you don't mind, I will start with a brief short of my professional journey. This way could give a bit of background to everyone. My journey started in 2004 as a HR in GE, is a global company. Then from 2006 onward till 2025, I'm in charge for the HR in Prysmian. You can see around my professional career. Can you hear me? Hello? Not sure, Rita, if I lost you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Just go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, I didn't see you. Okay, yeah. You disappeared. Okay, I will go ahead. No problem.
Yes, go ahead.
Then you can see from the map. 2006, I joined Prysmian, and you can see where you see the orange bubble. These are all the milestones that I went through of different M&A around my career. Then we can see that from 2006 to 2025 has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main changes and 6 main big events in the cable industry. I joined Prysmian in 2006. Then at that time, this Prysmian was a spin-off of Pirelli Cable. That was a first M&A event where Pirelli was selling Prysmian, and that was bought from Goldman Sachs. Then at that time, I was sold in a certain sense. Then Prysmian went public with an IPO. And in 2012, another important event where Prysmian bought Draca, and Prysmian became the first global player in the cable industry. At that time, in 2012, I was appointed as a global talent people development to run one of the first big M&A in the cable industry, merging 2 big companies, Draca and Prysmian. We are talking about a company of 5,000 employees with another company of 5,000 employees for a total of 10,000 employees. From 2012 to 2018, I've been in charge for the integration of these 2 big companies. In 2017, latest summer, Prysmian was preparing another important acquisition, buying General Cable. That has been a second big acquisition in the cable industry. Another similar company where from 10,000 people other 10,000 people, we became 20,000 employees. Then from the US, I moved to Asia in 2018 with mission to consolidate the Asian entity that were acquired as HR of ASEAN. And in 2021, another important mission in terms of M&A, where we have been enlarging our presence in Asia Pacific, merging Oceania and Southeast Asia. Last but not least, during the last year, in 2024, another important acquisition, Warren Brown, where we enlarge our presence in one of the niche market as connectivity. And to finish, in 2025, we merge and consolidate Asia Pacific, extending the perimeter also to Greater China and Hong Kong. And today I'm the HR of Asia Pacific of Prysmian. This just to give you an idea of my career, because the story that I'm going to share is linked to how my career went through. Then allow me to share the next. We will talk about Prysmian. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Prysmian. I'm calling the Prysmian case because Prysmian is the cable leader in this industry, is the #1 player of the cable industry. And I think is a very interesting case, has been studied, we are still studying some university, as a big, interesting business case. You can see on the left side the history of Prysmian, and you can recognize also from my career. You can see that is an history made of different logo that represent different acquisition. Then Prysmian historically in the 1879 was the Pirelli, and as I mentioned before, in 2007, this important spin-off, Goldman Sachs by Prysmian. Prysmian is listed as a public company, and from 2007 onward, a series of big acquisitions that were expanding the presence all over the world. And today we are a company of 50 plus countries presence, 170 plants, 27 R&D centers, 33,000 employees all over the world, 8 cable laying vessels, and a company of 70 million annual sales in 2024. We are the biggest company and leading market in the cable industry. Then an interesting case to study also in terms of business evolution. But now let's go to Asia. Let's come back to our, our region. Asia. What is Asia for Prysmian? Asia for Prysmian is 10 countries, 14 plants, 3,000 colleagues, 30 nationality. The Prysmian journey, I will storytell a bit about the Prysmian journey across APAC. My journey, as I mentioned, started more or less 10 years ago in 2016-17, when I left US and I moved in Singapore. And there's been a journey of managing transformation, integrating culture, and navigating, I can say, a complex APAC market that is very diverse among geography. And just to remember to all of us, in 2017, I was in charge for the first mission, the Southeast Asia M&A and the consolidation, that for me was representing Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines. Then in 2021, we consolidate and integrate Australia and New Zealand, then became Southeast Asia and Oceania, for us OSEA. And last but not least, in the last year, in 2024-25, we enlarged the perimeter of this region in terms of business to the Greater China and Hong Kong. And when going through different moments of merger and acquisition, also moment of where we deconsolidate some business that we closed or sold. What has been my lesson learned so far? I have the pleasure to share it with all of you. The first lesson learned is that as HR, I believe we cannot lead change. This is the first big news for the HR community. I believe that HR can and should adapt to change. And this is the most critical HR skill. And I will come back on this concept of that adapting to change and not leading change. Then 4 block that I would like to share, 4 lessons. The first is related to how navigate M&A, what are couple of ingredients, how to be successful in HR strategies for integration. The second is how to build resilience, how to manage resistance, how maintain a certain business continuity. The third, how we can adapt this approach also to the Asian market, that is mainly my experience, and how we can leverage some advantage of the market. Last but not least is on the evolving the business model, means how HR can play a role also from organization and business perspective. Let me go case by case, and I will try to share my lesson learned over these 20 years of experience in M&A, of which 10 years in Asia. First, navigating M&A. I believe there are 2 ingredients that should not be missed in terms of HR strategy. And for me, these are the 2 big enablers. The first is HR. I learned over the year that M&A integration is a structured process. It's not something that you can do by intuition. It needs a quite structured approach. Means that the HR function should be already equipped or should equip herself very quick in order to manage this process. And what does it mean? It means you need to have in place the major HR process to go through an M&A, the major HR system, or if you don't have, you need to equip yourself very quick, because these are enablers of the HR strategy. Second, but not second, is to say, in parallel, the effort on communication is an HR job, cannot be delegated, because we are talking to people, we are communicating to people, and there is a nice sentence, probably all of you knows very well, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Means that if you are not able to communicate continuously with your people, keeping them informed, motivated, engagement, this is one of the main reasons of failure of any big merge. Then please, structured process and communication. Second lesson learned. You will find, of course, resilience along the way. You will find resistance. How to approach this resistance? Of course, we cannot expect that any M&A is only nice story. Means there will be colleagues that will be probably promoted. There will be colleagues that life will not change. There will be colleagues that they will not adapt to the new change. There will be resistance. How to approach this resistance? Over the year, I learned that it's a matter of how you position yourself, where you position the motivation of your organization. Means that you need to leverage, in my experience, what is a positive story of growth, because any M&A behind has a mission to grow business. If you want to grow business, you need to grow people. Because when you have an M&A, you are mainly, at least in some of the measure, acquiring knowledge, acquiring people. Then the ability should be leveraged on people development. What does it mean? To be practical, you need to build training, you need to build community, you need to build academy, you need to build space where people feel integrated, where people feel appreciated. Then this will, as a effect, this will mitigate resistance. This will isolate resistance. Then you need to create positive space of growth for employees. Third point, and this is mainly linked to Asia in my experience. In any M&A, you have some what I call competitive advantage. Then you have something that is peculiar of that area, of that business, of the geography that you need to leverage. Still there to engage people, because it's always matter of engage people, let people to adapt to the new change. And how to do? In Asia, in my opinion, there is a big opportunity. And this big opportunity is diversity and inclusion. Means we are a very diverse region. All of you knows very well. We have different geographies, different country, different culture, and usually, in my experience, M&A has been always across geography, across culture, and this is an opportunity to include people, to share, use diversity as a moment to celebrate this, to celebrate the fact that we are growing, that we are integrating, that we are spending time together. This is always a human factor that boosts engagement. People want to be included. People want to celebrate. People are not closed by mindset. They become sometimes like that. Then for me, the diversity we have in Asia has been always something to leverage on for this integration. Last but not least, in this case, we will have 10 minutes at least of question, is organization development. HR can play, should play a role on the business, how the business model will evolve. Then here is the organization. Some function are only HR, some function are HR organization. In my case, I'm head of HR and organization Asia Pacific. Organization for me is not one moment. And people realize that probably over the time in any M&A, what you were imagining the first days will be very different 12 months later. Then for me, the lesson learned was that organization is what I'm mentioning here, should be in a phased approach. Means that you should not present to your team, to your organization, and this is still linked to the fact that you need to adapt to change. You are not leading change. You are not forcing change, that the organization can change over the time. What you were doing or you were expecting the first day when you communicate your integration, your first organizational structure, you should clarify that probably 12 months later will be very different. Why? Because you are progressing with an M&A. Means you are trying to find the best of the two organizations to adapt to the new change. This for me, Rita, are the 4 lessons learned over the time. I can say this 20 years of M&A globally and this 10 years of M&A in Asia Pacific. And probably here we can share some question, or I can exploit with some small story behind each of these pillars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Luigi. Yeah, so thank you so much. For those who are participating or you are watching our live session, just feel free to leave your question or comments in the comment box, and all will be seen and also answered by our speaker today. Okay, so Mr. Luigi, you mentioned that as human resources, right, we should not lead changes. We should adapt to changes. Can you share with us some examples on how we should adapt changes instead of leading it?
Absolutely. Let me say that I can diversity and inclusion example. Let me say this is a big area of change. One big example that I was mentioning to some of colleagues. I met some young graduate lately in some assessment, and they asked me, "Oh, what about the company values?" Right? That is they are an extreme example of how a culture of an organization looks like. And I mentioned to them, because they were more prepared than me on the company value. Because they say, we read on your website, these are the 3 values of your organization, right? And I say, yeah, you are right. But I told to them, by the way, be careful, because probably in a couple of years, this value can change. And they were a bit surprised, right? And they say, how is possible? I say, yes, because we are a company, we are adapting to change. And this is a real story. Over the years, example, the company values Prysmian has been changing, right? Why? Because when you adapt to change, when you acquire company, when you merge with the other organization, when you put new people together, you discover new market, you realize that there is something completely different. And example, Prysmian was a company very focused on the manufacturing, on operation. This for efficiency for us was a culture, was a value. But when we bought Draca, that is a global company, and they were extremely customer oriented, we adapt to change. We bring inside a completely new value, right? That was not our idea at the beginning. We were not customer oriented. We learned from that organization to combine efficiency and customer orientation. And then over the time, last but not least, in the last years, we made other new acquisition, and we bring inside innovation. Then we adapt to change, because we bring inside some company, some players, some colleagues extremely innovative on the market. This is the difference between lead the change, adapt to change. Lead the change, you have your own idea and you force it into the market. Adapting to change, you have your own idea, but you are ready to get the best around, because the basic assumption, at least in our case, has been that any merge has been a competitive merge. Means we were merging with new organizations that were good players on the market, where we were keen to acquire the knowledge, the people, the machine, the asset, but people remain the biggest asset of any merge. And you need to adapt to the way they are working on the market.
Very nice. We need to adapt to their way, right? Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Mr. Luigi. So how about what's one thing that you wish you had done differently in your past M&A projects?
Yeah, let's say that the 4 story that I'm sharing, process, communication, people development, diversity and inclusion, organization, has been my lesson learned over the year. And I can say I would have wished to do everything step by step differently. In my first experience, I would wish to have already have some process in place. When we merged, and I was in charge in 2012 for talent people development globally, we merged 2 companies. We were not having any performance system, any HR system. That's been difficult, because we had to navigate some area, some environment without data, without information, without process. Communication was a lesson learned. We were completely underestimating communication. We were leaving communication as the last thing to do, as the last mile. No, communication is the beginning of the journey. It's not the last thing to do. It's the first thing, as I mentioned before, is an HR matter. Communication is a strict HR matter. It's not a marketing matter. It's not a business matter. In any M&A, HR should pretend to lead communication, internal communication. And the same also as, let me say, we are a listed company, example, the same communication is important to lead on the market, to explain the rationale. Then these are two things that sure I would have preferred to learn at the beginning. Last but not least, also organization. Organization, sometimes we, as I mentioned before, we believe that we are having already the right secret, the right formula. In reality, we need to adapt the organization continuously, because it is a learning curve. Any M&A, by definition, is a learning curve. We discover step by step the beauty of a new business, the strength of a new business, also the weakness of a business that we bought, and then we need to continue to adapt to that.
Very nice. Communication is the beginning of the journey, right? And also is the HR matter, not the marketing matter. It should be
Is an
dealt
HR matter. Communication,
Yeah.
internal communication is a strict important HR matter. In any M&A, if you are in charge for HR, if you are in charge of the HR, but you are not in charge for internal communication, or you underestimate internal communication, you create a big breakdown in your circuit, and then you will suffer along the way.
Okay, very nice. So, what then, Mr. Luigi? What advice would you give to HR professionals who are new to M&A?
Yeah, my main advice is to HR professional is try to, first of all, try to get my story as a good advice, no? Because it's a story that are few things, but need to be done in a very meticulous way, right? That's in a very, I used to say, methodic way. And also in a very consequent way. Let me say, are not here by chance, right? I'm not starting from the organization. I start from communication. Someone start from organization. And for me, it doesn't work, honestly, because then it becomes a problem. Or someone start just doing, let me say, underestimating communication. Then my advice over HR professional is that to be methodic. M&A is a specific way to do HR, is a moment where people are emotionally extremely involved, right? There is an high level of emotion that HR need to be able to help people to go through the change, right? This is an important role of HR, should adapt to change, but is a facilitator, no? Then, as much as possible, HR is structured, approach in a structured way. This gives the right calm to the organization, including your management, right? Because as HR, you have different stakeholders. You have your employee, but the other side, you have your CEO, you have the external market, you have your stakeholder. Then M&A is a job. Let me say, we were discussing a global HR conference over years. Probably today we can really write a sort of a playbook on M&A because we have so many lessons learned, but the big lesson learned to share that this is something that cannot be done overnight.
Yeah, that's right. Adapting to change is the key. Okay, so Mr. Luigi, can you share with an example of a culture clash and how it was resolved? Because earlier you mentioned about diversity inclusion, right? So can you share example of a culture clash and how it was resolved?
Yeah, I will, let me say, I will not share the specific example of cultural clash, otherwise I will do the cultural clash of the cultural clash. This is my lesson learned. And every time you mention a cultural clash, there is someone ready to do the clash of the clash. No? And I had so many cultural clash over my experience, moreover in Asia, right? That let me say, we have cultural clash behind the door. When we wake up in the morning, we go breakfast, is first cultural clash. No, example, if an Italian is in Asia, the breakfast is a first cultural clash. I will focus mainly on how it's been resolved. The beauty is that has been resolved from an HR perspective. No? That behind any cultural clash, there are human. There is, and I used to say, behind culture there are human beings. This is most important, right? Culture is an overstructure, but the basics of all of us that come before our culture, no, when we born, that we are human being. Then the ability of the HR here is always try to bring people one step back, to the human being level. Right? Because if you are able to bring people at the human being level, any cultural clash can be resolved. It's not easy because some people are not able to make this step back. Sometimes we are very proud, we are very jealous, we are very defensive of our culture. These are our root, right? Then we don't want to give up nothing. The ability of HR here is try to help in that difficult moment where everyone has reason. There is no you are right, you are wrong. No, everyone has reason, because culture are culture. There is not the right and the wrong culture. We need to make a step back. As HR helps to go at the human level, no? And then find the right way to put these two colleagues, two organizations together to have a dialogue. It's very difficult. It's very difficult, is my opinion, because when there are this clash, sometimes you feel that are resolved, but they can pop up very easily the day after. But I used to say, I want to close with one word. You need to be genuine in your approach. Genuine means you need to be real. If people feel that you don't care, if people feel that in reality you are doing it because it's part of your job, but there is something that is not spontaneous in your approach, unfortunately, here you cannot fake. People will not make the step back. People will not open themselves. They will be not willing. Then you really need to care about diversity. And here, the only advice I can be to really be interested. Sometimes it's something very natural, right? It's like when we are kids, I was having dream to travel the world and eat different food. And this was my dream because I really like it. And on the other side, there was my schoolmate that, no, he don't want to go. He want to eat his own food. He want to stay in his own, no? And both of us, we were already diverse. Then try to be genuine in diversity. Try to be really natural, and this will help HR to facilitate also this clash when will happen.
Very nice. Bring to the human being level, which is to be people-centric, right? And also be genuine in diversity. Genuine. Thank you very much for the good advice. We are now towards to close the session. Any closing remarks for us?
First of all, thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you to Rita for the invitation. My last remark is that anything related to HR, anyway, this is related to people, as you were saying, right? Then I believe that as a people, we should be always very genuine. Be genuine means we can make mistake. We should learn every day. We need to be very open to feedback, and people will appreciate. I think this should be the big quality of an HR leader. And last but not least, we should not be scared to go through people matter, right? We should go through with opening your heart, opening your hearing. And I'm sure that you will find a very good satisfaction as HR leader over your career. And last but not least, thank you to Asia to include me in the last 10 years, because I feel really included in this region that I really love it.
Wow, I could feel your love with Asia. Thank you, Mr. Luigi. Be genuine and don't be scared to deal with people matters, right? And at the end of the day, we'll get the satisfaction. Thank you so much for the wonderful session today. Thank you so much. And for all of you, we'll see you next Wednesday. And our topic for next Wednesday is related to multi-organizational work dynamics. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you, everyone. Great topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.